All right, so we are talking about, guys, we're talking about 1.1b, making predictions with linear models. Yesterday was day 1, and we did it by hand, right? Today is day 2 with technology. We're calling it regression models. Before we get started, we're going to talk about scatter plots, okay? So with scatter plots, there are types of correlation that we're looking at: positive, negative, and constant, or no correlation, okay? And so on your paper, you have 8 scatter plots. Okay. On your paper, you have 8 scatter plots. At your table, I want you guys to decide whether they are positive, negative, constant, or no correlation. When you say positive, that means that the data, they're not in a perfectly straight line, but the data is steadily increasing in some form, right? When you say negative, it's not, again, it doesn't have to be a perfectly straight line, but the information is steadily decreasing. Okay, when you're saying constant, the information is kind of like just staying in a horizontal line. And when you're saying no correlation, it's all over the place. Okay, it's all over the place. Okay, so as you look at your graphs, I want you to classify it as positive, negative, and constant, or no. Oh, I don't know why I wrote and. Positive, negative, constant, or no correlation. Okay, so talk to your peers. We're going to do this about, let's say, 2-ish minutes. All right, so before we check, I'm going to go over with you some ways that correlations are listed, okay? So if you look right here, this is a positive linear correlation. Do we see that? Roughly. This is a negative linear correlation. This is an independent, meaning that there's no correlation. They're just chilling around like a blob above. Okay. Yes, so this is for stats, but we're not in stats, so don't freak out if you wrote no correlation, okay? When it is a curvature in it, it is called a curvilinear correlation. This would be a curvilinear correlation, but if you wrote no correlation, that is a-okay, because we're talking about in regards to linear, okay? If you were a statistician, you would write what I just said. All right, now let's look at our graphs. You see nothing. You see nothing. Ah! I thought give me my tools. I cleared it. On the other side. All right, here we go. Okay, so we're constructing models. So on the first one here, what did y'all say? Positive. And we're going to also classify it because it says identify whether it's linear. Okay, so it's positive. And with linear, would it be a positive linear? Yes, it would. This is positive, but is it a positive linear? No, it's a exponential. It is a positive exponential. Good job. Yeah, you can. So we had a positive linear. We have a positive, but it's not linear. It is exponential. Okay. What? What'd I do? Okay. This guy right here, this could be a fairly constant or no correlation. I would give it to you. Because I could draw almost a straight line and they'd be fairly close to that straight line-ish. But if you put no NC, we'll roll with it. This one is more of an NC because of there's the outlier, right? Kind of throws off our data a little bit. All right. What about here? Clearly, what is this? Positive. And could a linear graph represent it? Yes. All right. What is this?
Ignore correlation.
No correlation if you're looking linear, but what if I wasn't looking linear? What other graph could represent this? A parabola, right? A quadratic. It could be, it's not linear, but could it be a positive quadratic? If you wrote no correlation for linear, you're right. Okay. Yeah, you're right. I'm just adding on to your knowledge. Don't freak out on me, okay? But for linear, does that work? No, but it work if we were dealing with a quadratic. All right, what about this? Positive. And a linear could do it, right? So we could say positive linear. All right, what about this guy? No correlation, but are most of them pretty linear? I would go positive linear. Bless you, bless you, bless you. Okay. All right. So how do we feel about scatter plots? Doable? All right. So with scatter plots, we want to figure out, okay, what is an actual model of this data, right? So what we're going to be doing is called a regression model. All right. So this is the thing right here. There's a lot of steps to the regression model. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to follow and write them out a little simpler when we're doing it, but I will post this to your Canvas so you can see the more detailed steps. Is that cool? All right, so we're going to briefly go over them, and then we're going to go through it together in the calculator. All right, so right now you're just listening. Yes, right now you're just listening. Cool? Listening and paying attention. Ready? All right, so step 0 is anytime you're working with scatter plots or regression models, you want to make sure that your calculator is reset. To reset our calculator, we press second plus 712. Second plus 712. Okay, that is what we press. Once we do that, our calculator is reset. Okay, then after our calculator is reset, we're going to go to stat. Then we're going to go to the editor. And we're gonna enter stat editor, which we do that by pressing stat, and then we're gonna select edit, and we're gonna input our data into the list. Okay. After we put in our list, we'll have L1 and L2 done. We're gonna make sure that all of our list numbers are in, and that we have the same number of entries in each list. Because if they're not equal, it will not work. So if one list has 6 and the other has 5, it will tell you error, error. Okay. Then we're going to press Y equals, and we're going to arrow up to plot 1. We're going to press enter and arrow down to turn the plot on. After we do that, we're going to press graph. And then we should be able to see all of our data points. All right. Are y'all ready to do it? Ready or not, here we go. Oh, you may need calculators if you do not have calculators at your time. So we're going to use our example that we have to input. So how many of y'all have watched weather reports and the weatherman's like, hey guys, it's a 40 degrees outside today, but be careful. There's 20 miles per hour wind coming at you and your wind chill is going to feel like 30 degrees. Bundle up, everybody. You all kind of remember people who do that? Okay. The wind chill. Like, we haven't did it. We're going to do it together. We just listen. That's all. All we did was listen, right? Not do anything yet. Okay. And then it says bundle up, everybody. Yeah. Okay. So that's what this problem is talking about. This problem is telling us that they track the temperatures. So they track the temperature of what's happening when there's a 20 mile per hour wind entering an area and how it affects the Fahrenheit. So if you look right here, if it's 40 degrees, but as soon as that wind comes, it drops down to 30. It's 35. As soon as it comes in, it drops down to 24, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to input this information. So we're going to make sure we understand that this is our X, right? Our independent is the air temperature and our wind chill is our Y. Agreed? All right. So then when we're putting it in, this is going to be our L1 and this is going to be our L2. Typically, we let our L1 be our X values and our L2 be our Y values. Still with me? All right. So we're going to go through those steps that we mentioned. So step 1 is to make sure we clear our calculator. How do we clear our calculator? Step 0, I'm sorry. Perfect. Second plus 712. And then you should get them notice it says RAM cleared. Oh, yeah. Yeah? Awesome. Okay. Step 1 says we're going to input our data. To input our data, we're going to press the stat button. Your stat button is right underneath the delete button. So we're going to press stat. And we're going to open the editor. So we press 1. Are y'all with me? And now we're going to put in our L1 and our L2 values. So we're going to put in L1. So we're going to put 40, enter, 35, enter, 30, enter, 25, enter, 20, enter, 15, enter. You have the same numbers on your paper. Just turn it over. Yeah. All right. Now I'm going to do my L2, 30, enter, 24, enter, 17, enter, 11, arrow to the right. When you put in your negative, make sure you're using the negative symbol down by your decimal and then -2. Okay. Okay. All right. Everyone put it in. Second plus 712 to reset. Yes. All right. So now we have our table in. Everyone good? Okay. We want to create the scatter plot. To create the scatter plot, we're going to press Y equals. You guys see where Y equal is? So we go to Y equals. And do you see where it says plot 1? We're going to arrow up to plot 1 and press enter. We press Y equals. You press Y equals, you're going to arrow up to plot 1 and press enter. And when you arrow down, it should be bold. When you arrow down, it should be bold. The plot 1. Okay. Check with your peers. Check and see that their screen looks like my screen. Did you not reset your calculator? You didn't reset your calculator. That's why all that stuff is in there still. You skipped 0 step. Step 0 was to reset. Huh? The negative is the decimal down by the decimal. Okay. All right. Now we're going to press graph. But notice when we press graph, we don't see anything. Okay. So we're going to press zoom. Zoom. And you're going to scroll down till you see zoom stat. Because you wanted to plot your stats you just put in. Okay, so you're going to go zoom stat, zoom stat. Once you're at zoom stat, you're going to press enter. And you should see your scatter plot. There we go. Zoom stat, scatter plot. All right, you have and then arrow down.
I pressed enter on the line was one thing. No, why do you think when you go to the top of it? You don't have to scroll down.
No, Mr. You say no, Mr. Mo. Dollar my then when you grab
I swear to God.
All right, guys, when we're doing things like this, especially when it's a new, if you're stuck at a point before I keep going and I'm asking y'all, are we good? Are you there? Say no if you're not. That's what happened. Okay. All right, so I'm gonna kind of quickly go back over it, what I just did. But do you see how now I can see my scatter plot? Now we have a visual of our data. Looking at this, can you tell me what kind of correlation we have? Positive linear. We all agree? Okay, so I'm gonna go back through the steps fairly quickly. What we did. Okay. So I went to stat. I went to edit. I'm not typing these numbers back in. Pretend that I reset already. All right. So we reset. We did all that. I went to stat, edit, put in all of my numbers, right? After I put in my numbers, I then went to y equals. I arrowed up to plot so I could turn my plot on, hit enter, and I arrowed down to make sure that it's bold. So my plot is bold and on, right? I went to graph, and at first when I graphed, could I see my points? No. So I had to go to zoom and go down to stat, zoom stat, in order for it to graph what I needed to graph. And that's how we got our scatter plot. Yes? Okay. And now we know that what type of regression model are we looking for? A positive linear. Okay. So we are looking for a positive linear. Correct? Yes. Yes. So after we did all of that, we know that we need a positive linear situation. My P got real weird. Let's erase that. That's just getting worse. I thought I could save it. Let's try that again. Positive linear. All right. So positive linear is what we're doing. Okay. Yes. We're all good? The negative is down by the decimal. Okay? All right. Now, the next part of our notes. So we went through all of these steps. This is what we did. These steps again, I'm going to post it to your Canvas so you can have reference. You can write it out for yourself fully if you want to, but these are the steps that we just followed. Okay? All right. Now, the next thing we're going to do is how do we find the equation that represents it? Okay? So these are the steps that we're going to follow to find our equation. Okay? So if you look right here, we've already did step number 1, right? We've already put our information into the stat editor, correct? Okay, so from here, it says we're going to do what? We're going to press second in mode to return to our calculator page. So we're going to press second mode, and this is your calculator page because this is where you calculate. Okay, so what did I press? Second mode. Okay, what you see here written is what I press. All right, so my page is here. Now I'm going to press what? I'm going to press stat. Okay, so second mode stat, that's all I've done. Now it says you're going to press the right arrow key to reach the calc menu. So I'm going to arrow key over to calc. Okay, we're going to do some calculating in the calculator page. All right. Now, we already determined what kind of correlation did we have? Positive linear. So we're going to go to where it says lin reg. That stands for linear regression. So we're going to either press 4 or you can arrow down. Does it matter which one you do? No, it's going to be the same result. So we're going to press 4. For me, mine stops. Yours gets weird. Okay. So my steps, these are the steps that you're going to follow. We're going to keep going. Okay. So on your calculator, you're going to make sure that your X list says L1. Does your X list say L1? You're going to make sure your Y list is your L2. It says store regular equation is set at Y1. Does it say it? No, it doesn't. What does it say we're going to do to get it to say that? We're going to press vars, then we're going to go to 1, and then we're going to press 1 again, okay? So we're going to go vars, vars, and you're going to press 1 and, oh, I'm sorry, fudge. Vars, arrow over. That's the arrow. I drew the arrow. Sorry, I didn't say the words. I drew the arrow. My bad. My bad. My bad for not saying the word arrow. Okay. So, yeah. So, vars. So, what? You want me to go down to? So, you're going to go down the var. You're going to go down to where it says. Yes. And now you're going to go to vars. You're going to arrow over. And you're going to press 1 for function. And then you're going to press 1 for Y. Yes. Yours, again, looks different than mine because it's a newer version. Does it say Y1? Then you're good. Does it say Y1? Okay. You deleted your L1 for some reason. I don't know why you just did that. So you get to pause for a second. Okay. Hey, pause. Yes. I'm listening. I'm listening. You got to say something. Okay. I don't know how to, I'm going to read exactly what's up here. So if you want to read also, you can, but I'm just going to read exactly what's up here because that's what you're doing. Okay. So we're at step 5. Well, after you got back, you did your lin reg, you're going to make sure that your X list says L1, your Y list says L2, where it says store reg EQ, you're going to set it at Y1. Shh, please be quiet. Your Y1, how to do that? You're gonna go vars, arrow, 1 for function, 1 for Y1. Okay? When you're done, you're gonna scroll down to calculate and press enter. When you're gonna scroll down to calculate and press enter. There you go.
No, that's good. Yeah, I was very basic.
Now you're gonna step 3. And you're gonna go. Step 4. What does step 4 say you do? And then you press. Then break. 4. Because one gives you your AX and your B and the other one does not. And then you're gonna make sure you have your L1 in, your L2 in. And they're already there. You just check them what it says. Set is at L1, Y left is set to L2. Now you're gonna go to store regular equation. Go down. And what are you gonna do here? You're gonna press bars, 1, there bars.
We got 3 more minutes.
Yeah. Arrow over. 1, 1. Yeah. Okay, and then scroll down, calculate, and press enter. I'm not trying to be funny, but I'm just gonna keep reading the instructions. Man, I try my best to like be as explicit up there as possible. I said here. Oh. What? Oh, what? Oh, look right there. Now, 4.
I don't know.
That was down 4. Down, down. Down. Bar, 2 Y bar. Better cry if you're taking. You don't have any of that.
I hope not.
I did it already,
Your mom.
but you need the values in it. That's why I said your list is there. Okay?
I know.
No. Well, you have to keep working on your 1.2. All right. So when you're done here, what you come up with, that is your equation. So it says, here's your equation, 1.29, blah, blah, blah. The reason why we put Y1 is because it'll put it in there for us. And when we go to graph, it'll graph our equation we just made and see how it fits our data. So if you look here, doesn't our equation fit our data pretty nicely? It does. So that's how we know what our equation is. Okay. So for our equation, we ended up with, what was it? Roughly Y equals, I'm going to round it to the nearest hundredths. So we have Y equals 1.29x minus 21.51. And that's the equation we got. And again, we know that it's a good equation because we compared it to our scatter plot. And how does it look? Straight on, pretty good. All right, guys, we're going to finish tomorrow. Bye.